bloom in spring. Tell me who gives the air that you breathe. Ooh. Everything that you need he will provide, so you may as well come on and give him a try. 'Cause he's awesome. Ooh, he's awesome. He's awesome. What would I do without him? Couldn't make a move without him. I don't wanna be without him. He's awesome.
What's up, ladies? Welcome to ZMR Ministries. I'm Pastor Z, and you know it's Friday, so it's time for Girl Talk. Now tonight's topic is called Date You Before You Date Him, and it's gonna be all about loving yourself first. So tonight, y'all know I got my girls. We don't do any hesitation. We just dive right in. I got Mia, Simone, and y'all know Bridget. So ladies, let's dive right in. Now, Simone is married. Mia got a boo. Me and Bridget, you know, we Lone Rangers, but we got each other, okay? But we gonna talk about how loving ourselves first is key. So before you get a husband, before you get a boo,
it's coming.
Right. What do you need to be doing, you know, in that time of isolation, in that time of singlehood, all of that? So ladies, let's dive right down. I actually want to start with Mia. Because, I'm saying Mia because she is the epitome of dating yourself, dating you before you date him. And I say that because Mia is just, what do you call it? She's well-traveled. She does everything that she wants to do. It's not anything on her list that she says, I want to do that, and she doesn't do it. And she's not waiting, or she didn't wait, on a man to come in her life to fulfill those things that she wanted, her dreams, her aspirations, things on her bucket list. And so whenever, you know, anybody came in the picture, it was more of just complimenting instead of, you know, I guess depending on him to fulfill something in you. So, man, I want you to start out because, you know, we all listening. Come on.
I mean, you pretty much said it. I just made sure that what I wanted, I didn't depend on somebody else to give it to me. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I set goals for my life. I set them in different increments. So I have 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20. I have different year increments. And then, of course, I do the very cliche thing, which is the vision board. Mm-hmm. I think everybody does a vision board at this point. And so I mark things off. I do all of those things. But I noticed that for a lot of people, they wrap themselves, their happiness, into what someone else can give them. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is the moment they don't make you happy anymore, you move on to somebody else who can make you happy. Mm-hmm. And because you've not learned to be happy and content with yourself, you don't really know what's happiness for you.
Mm-hmm. So I do want to ask before we go to the other ladies, because you said you set goals for yourself, mm-hmm. you know, of course in increments, but what was the driving factor behind I'm going to do these things for myself? Because of course we know a lot of ladies wait. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say this until I'm married. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say traveling until I'm married because I want to travel with my mate, and then you may never get married. Right. So now they put their lives on hold, and for what?
That's true. So two things. First thing is, my thought was, what if I don't get married?
Right.
So now I have waited all this time to do these things with my mate, and I missed out on mm-hmm. this life. Yeah. Because I was waiting and hesitating for that. The other thing is, like a lot of people say, you know, my mom is my mentor. My mom is somebody I love and I look up to and things of that nature. And I do. I absolutely love my mom. I absolutely love who she is and how she has dedicated her life to taking care of her children and her grandchildren and things of that nature. But she was also my inspiration of what I did not want to be. Mm. And so, as much as I love my mom, as much as I loved my father because he is now passed on, that was my inspiration. I did not want to repeat them, and I did not want to be them. Right. I did not want to date my dad. I did not want to be like my mom, you know, still in a certain situation at her age. I did not want to, you know, get into a certain age and be saying things like, oh, you know, I've never had a full bedroom set before. You know, I went on my own. You know, I didn't want to be a certain age and say stuff like, I ain't never been on a plane. You know, just things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Love my family, but I didn't want to be there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be stuck. And so even as a kid, I knew there had to be more to life than hood living. And so that's what I did.
Well, hood living, amen. Simone, you're married.
Yes, I am.
So did you date yourself before you got married?
I would say yes and no.
Why yes and why no?
So I was in the process of starting to, really getting to know myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, really starting to get to know myself, but I just always dated.
Mm-hmm.
But it never stopped me, like you said, to do what I want. I dated, I do what I want. Just like her, if I want to go travel, I'll travel. When I did date and I want to go travel, the person I'm with, they didn't want to go, I'll leave them. I'm going. So that's just how it's been. So.
Right.
So yeah, even when I wasn't dating and wasn't married, I still did stuff. I still got to see things, still got to go out the country, just live.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I was dating, they didn't want to do it. You're not gonna stop me from doing it. I'm going.
Right.
Yeah. So when I did get married, like I told him, I like to travel.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't really just traveled in. Well, he does with his job, but as far as like vacation wise, never really did. I do. No, our parents took us growing up, so that's what I like to do. So, like I told him, next year I'm gonna go to Jamaica, and he just kind of like, okay. Well, I'm going to Jamaica. You can stay here. So I already told him. His sister was like, well, I want to go. Me and your sister going to Jamaica, and everybody else, you can stay here. What I was thinking.
So Bridget and Simone are sisters. I just wanted to point that out just in case y'all thought they were the same person.
They know.
All right, Bridget.
No. For me, I feel like I've dated myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because nothing did stop us from. At a young age, we were already traveling. So our parents took us on cruises when we were like 6 and 7. So that was something that was kind of bred in us early on, which is why we like to travel. And it was something where I just say, okay, I want to go here, so we go. I find a trip, balling on a budget. We go out, we find good deals. This is somewhere I want to go. We plan and we go. But in regards to, for me in dating, I really didn't know what I wanted.
Right.
In a sense, I had no idea what was healthy for me, what I wanted, what I liked, and especially when I was younger, because I was with my daughter's father since I was 15 up until I was 25. So I had no idea what older, mature Bridget wanted, because I still was looking at younger, immature Bridget.
Right.
And I had no idea that the relationship I was in was not healthy, in the sense of something that would give me longevity. So it wasn't until I started going out and meeting other people and going on these dates where I was like, oh, I like that. Oh no, I don't like being treated like that. So it was in a sense of really finding myself and seeing, this is what I want long term, this is what I don't want, but at the same time not trying to find my identity in my mate.
Right. And you know what? I think that's what it boils down to when it comes to loving yourself. And I want us to talk about different ways, or actually what's the definition of loving you, because everybody has their own definition, right? And sometimes, some people's definition of love is skewed. Yeah. Some people's definition of love is abuse. So we all have our own interpretation of what love is. I know for me, I've been single almost
It's okay.
almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in February, and I'm hanging in there, guys. I'm hanging in there. But I will say, no. What I will say is, in this last almost decade, I've pretty much done everything I wanted to do. And it was because I didn't have distractions. And when I was in relationships, all of my wants, desires, and everything was wrapped up in them. And so everything that I did was because, oh, well, they like it. Oh, well, we want to go here. Oh, well, he, da. And And it was like, you know, I wasn't really loving myself. And you don't realize that until you get by yourself for an extended time, like almost a decade, that you're like, oh, okay. Well, now I'm finally getting it.
Yeah.
And so when it came down to things that I desired, things that I consider my passion, I just started doing it all. And so y'all know over this last decade, I've done some of everything, and I don't let anything stop me. And so when I think about, like Mia said, you know, looking at family, because we weren't well traveled, but I didn't want for nothing as a kid either. You know, we had that hood living, and we was a little hood rich. And so I didn't want for anything, but that's still not loving yourself. And so now that I'm older, it's like it's getting to the core of me. Finding out who I am, like Bridget said, finding out what it is that I like and what I consider love to me. And when I started discovering that, that's when I became an open flower to myself. Because of course we know if you don't love you, you definitely can't love no man. And so when it comes to dating you, it's not necessarily like traveling or going on a date. You know, it's like when you consider, first of all, what do y'all call dating? Because, you know, some folks don't see. Right. What do you consider dating, Simone? And then we're going to go into all those other compartments.
Dating for me is we are getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm getting to learn about you and your ways.
The interview phase.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, what is your goals? I need to know you, who you are. I hate that brand new stage.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're first talking to somebody, everybody got on this mask. You trying to do whatever it is to make this person like you, they trying to do that. So I had got to the point where when we go on dates the first day, this is me, this is who I am. Hey, this is me without no makeup. This is me with my hair. If I don't feel like comedy, this is my issues. This is how I act sometimes. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. This is what I expect. Who are you? Let's just stop. You know, you need to know the good, bad, ugly. I don't like that whole phase of, oh, we kumbaya, you so wonderful. No, I need to see you.
Right.
Because I feel like it's getting older, I don't have time to waste with you. So let's just see each other and see if we even compatible.
Yeah.
So I think that's the dating thing. Just really, for me, it's just, let me see who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, people nowadays, they think the dating is, you gonna take me here, you gonna spend your money, and we gonna have sex. That's not dating, because who is this person you just had sex with?
Right.
And really, that's something I had to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just like, hey, whatever. You know? So,
Look at Bridget, she's like,
I mean, I'm saying. I just did whatever.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, and you know, that's it.
Mia, what is your? I want to hear this. What's your definition of dating? Come on.
Well, dating for me, well, there are two phases. I mean, she started talking about the first phase,
Right,
which is,
initial
you know,
phase.
meeting people. But I think I went through a phase similar to what she was saying in terms of when I first meet you, I just have a list of questions. Okay, whatever you want. Yes. Day one, like, because I interview and investigate and I counsel and all this other stuff on a regular basis. So I know people bring their masks the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I'm too old for that. I don't have time and I'm tired, I gotta work tomorrow. So let's just go ahead and get past that so I can go home and get in bed so I can go to work tomorrow. Let me just ask you these questions. Have you ever been to jail? Have you ever been gay? Were you born a man? Like, are you supposed to be on psychotropic medications? Like, and they're sitting there like, what?
This is no exaggeration. These are real questions
real life.
that I
report.
Oh my God.
No, I would literally ask, do you like if you tell me you like Disneyland, I got a problem. And then I ask, what color Power Rangers do you like? Like, these were legit questions.
And I was just, when we would get on the phone, I would be like, Mia, or we would meet up for lunch or something. I'm like, you asked him what?
I did.
Because if he says he like the pink Power Ranger, I'm like, okay.
But I understand the Disney question.
Yeah, do you like?
Especially
Yeah, you ain't got no. Why you
I
hanging
like
out?
Disney.
But you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
asked follow-up questions.
Yeah, you a grown up. You ain't got no kids. And you just kind of want to hang out with a whole bunch of children.
Why is
Why? Are you
That's
attracted?
follow-up
No,
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying.
you know. So I did go through that phase in the beginning, and I realized that was a bit abrasive and a bit much. You know, I called it.
Like, bring your prescriptions with you.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yes.
What are they? Like, I
Yes.
didn't know this because for me, it was a. This is just me. It was a deal breaker if you told me you was diagnosed with anything. It was a deal breaker, not because I had an issue with people who had mental illness, but because I deal in my workplace. I deal with mental illness all day. I am not coming home to deal with somebody who, if they forget they pill, they mood is up and down. Like, I cannot do it. So that was my thing. But as I've gotten older, you know, dating and what it looks like has changed. And so, you know, even I believe that you're getting to know a person, they get to know you or what have you. But even after you are exclusive, you continue the dating phase. And I think that even successful marriages, those that I know, because I know people, there are people who are married and they don't even like their spouse.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a whole nother segment, right? But I think that successful marriages have been ones who continue to date each other. They have it set that Friday nights belong to my husband. Friday nights belong to my wife. And if something else pops up, I'm going to check with them to see if it's okay that I forego our time and we'll make it up on Saturday or whatever the case may be. So dating is about not only getting to know, but continuing to stay in tune with the person that you know, made a commitment to, because you're not going to be the same person 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. You're supposed to be growing together. But if you don't talk and date each other, they're just going to look up one day and say, I don't even know you.
Right. What do you
And that is a big thing when you get married. You just can't get married and say, okay, well, we're married now. And then they go over here and you still doing what you were doing when y'all weren't married.
Right.
Because that will make your marriage so stale and so real at each other so fast. That's the biggest thing. Y'all have to date each other. Y'all still have to get to know each other. Because like she said, y'all are growing. And it's now you're not growing by yourself, you're growing with somebody else.
Right.
So y'all still need to communicate, still get to know each other. Just because you married to them, don't mean you still just 100% know the person. You may know them.
You don't even know yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bridget?
I guess for me, for dating, that stage, like y'all say, we're sending our representatives in the beginning. So it's I'm on my best behavior. You know, this is here, and it's not until sometimes that I've seen where I've been on dates where it's just certain things that are said, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. You know, when you're sitting there. But like Zanya, I have been single for almost about a decade too.
You know,
It's
we're
been a
getting
minute,
tough.
but it has been, to me, once I embrace the fact that being single is not bad. In fact, it really is a blessing. Because I don't have to concentrate on anybody else but myself.
Right.
You know, at this point, and my baby, my daughter. But it gives me that time that if I don't feel like going somewhere, I don't have to go. You know, I don't have to ask somebody, well, do you have plans? Because I want to go here. If it's a trip I want to take, I can take it. You know, I enjoy that. So I know that's something when I begin to date and eventually get married, that is something that I would have to adjust to. But I think it's so important to me, like Mia was saying, that you continue to date. Because I think a lot of, when you're growing and you're growing together, your outlook sometimes changes. Your end goal may still be the same, but who I am may change because life happens. And at that time, we need to be on the same level or on the same playing field or something where I'm like, okay, I can count on you, I can trust in you and everything else, but I really have to get to know you. You know, when you're there and knowing each other, knowing what you want to do, and communication is really key that I'm learning now. You have to have an open line of communication when you're with someone. And that's something that I know I have to work on because I may not always be vocal, you know, in regards to what I want, what I don't like, and where I'm going. So that's something I know in dating, communicating is important. And it is important, again, like you say, to keep it fresh. You know, come have lunch with me. you know, and it may be the date night or something else where you just have time together to spend time with each other and not with all the outside elements.
I agree with all of y'all. I'm just gonna be honest. I've been single so long, I don't know what dating look like no more. I'm just being real. I may be the one that's just like, what, Sonya? But it's like, even in the relationship that I was in before I got single, we never dated. You get what I mean? We were in a whole relationship, but I can't remember one time where it was like, okay, we're going out Friday night. You get dressed, I get dressed, you're gonna come pick me up, we're gonna have dinner. We never did that. It was more so like, we hit each other up in our DMs. And we started kicking it for almost a year and a half and got engaged eventually. It literally happened like that. So I haven't dated since my first real relationship, which lasted like 7 years. And he actually dated me. Now, that didn't work out either, so don't toot your horn if you're watching this. Okay, bring somebody he watching. But what I'm saying is, you know, when I look at what dating is, I haven't even tried to figure that out.
I think you'll end up, because it's the opposite for me. I'm just now getting to a place to know what dating is and know what it's like to be dated.
Right.
So I've had boyfriends in the past. I've even been engaged in the past, but I feel like they don't even count.
Like, it don't count.
And I mean, I had money. He gave me money. He gave me cars. He gave me rings. He gave me everything. Anything if I looked at it, it was mine. I didn't have to do nothing. I got it. But as far as dating, but that's not.
It's reality. No, that's reality.
It's reality.
But
I got whatever I wanted and didn't have to do a thing. But he was still crazy and big, still crazy.
Absolutely.
So that meant absolutely nothing at the end of the day. So now I'm seeing that this is the first time at this age where I'm really dating, enjoying it. We have set times.
I thought you were going to say
something
something
else.
else.
I was like,
Mia. I thought you were saying we have sex.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, Mia, wait a minute.
really opening up.
Right, I was like, sis, wait, cut. Look, cut. What I was saying.
Like, you're really sharing. No, I'm saying we actually set, like, it's time set. No, it's set time. Like, it is a set time. So even we are typically together every single weekend. So even this weekend, you know, spending time with Zanya and you ladies or whatever, it's like, okay, we messing up a routine here, because this has been our routine for a while. Okay. And then we also have a thing where every week we do weekly check-ins. We do relationship check-ins. So whether it's a Friday, whether it's a Saturday, we check in to make sure that, because I'm not necessarily, if you offend me, I'm not confrontational. I'm not gonna be like, hey, you hurt my feelings. You know, I'm not necessarily confrontational. So we'll do weekly check-ins and we'll talk about, you know, like, hey, how's the week been going? How's everything going? And most of the time it's really nothing, because we genuinely just have fun. And then every now and then we'll be like, oh, well, you remember like a couple days ago when such and such and such was said, okay, well, I felt like this. Or you remember a week ago when this and this and that happened, like, we'll talk about it, deal with it then, and we move on to the next week.
Well, and see, that's why I wanted to establish what dating was to each individual. Because as we know, we're talking about dating ourselves before we get in relationships, before we get in marriages. And so with all that has been said, with each one of you guys individually, how did you implement that in your personal life? Or are you just like Mia said, I'm just now figuring out dating? Are you just now figuring out dating yourself?
No, I think I dated myself a lot.
She did date herself. Well, that's my opinion.
And I think that people, they would tease. I mean, I had like pastors, like men and women of God, that would say little things and would tell me my standards were too high, and would tell me, you know, like I had a set thing. I'm going to the movies every single week, whether I have people with me or not. I'm going to the movie and I'm gonna see the latest movie, and it's gonna be opening weekend and whatever. I understand that I don't have to go that weekend, but that's my thing. I like doing that. And so I would have people say, oh, that's your husband, or that's your man, you know, or your standards are too high, or whatever. I take myself on annual trips for my birthday, with or without people. You want to roll, that's fine. But guess what? If you do, it's my birthday. This is my trip. I'm allowing you to come on my trip. So I did things for myself on a very regular basis, whether it was education, whether it was having fun, trap, whatever the case may be, because I never wanted anybody to say, I'm the one that gave it to you. I'm the one that exposed you to this. I'm the one that did this or that. So at this point, somebody entering my life, it's a genuine expression of how they feel about me and vice versa. It's not because they bought me a lamp in my house or, you know, a lamp. Okay, well, whatever. It's not because they bought a couch or cash out me $500 or whatever the case may be. You know, I have my own thing going. I have a 401k on my own. I have retirement on my own. So, yeah, I have life insurance and all the other stuff. So, yeah, if something happens to you, I'm good. You know, that type of thing.
Simone, because you married.
Okay.
Now that you've expressed your definition of dating and what it looks like, did you really do that before you got married?
No, I did not. I didn't.
Elaborate.
And you know, I thought I was, but no, I didn't. I think, you know, we should have dated each other a little bit more.
But should you have dated yourself more?
Yeah.
In what ways?
Probably should have just stayed single.
What? I told you I was gonna fall out this chair.
Y'all, this is uncut Jesus.
You should have heard me on here.
No, I'm listening. I mean, you know, keep it real.
It's your truth.
Yeah. I don't know. What? I'm gonna give her a minute. Bridget? I'll go, because y'all family. She probably giving her the eye like, girl.
I'm telling you.
I've been telling
So why do you think you should have stayed single?
I would
say this. My uncle is here in the studio. And we're trying to ignore him, and he keeps popping up like balls.
Yes.
And
Sorry. You can have a conversation with me.
No, we keep it real.
I for the truth.
Right.
Now, I will say this. My marriage is good. It is good. But I do feel like it would have been better if we took a step back and stay single, just remain friends, and really just get to know ourselves. Because it's like now we're in this marriage, and I mean, I pretty much know who I am and what I want, what I expect, what I don't expect, just because of everything I have been through in different relationships. But, you know, with him, he's still learning. Ooh, I laughed these tears. But, so it's like, now we're learning he's learning how to date himself. I'm learning how to be a wife. We're in this learning stage in our relationship. So I think for me, why I said I would probably just stay single, because I was actually starting to enjoy and really get to know myself. And it's like, damn, I got into this relationship. So it's like, I could have just, now looking at everything, the whole totality of things, you know, I could have took a step back and
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one step.
Yeah. I mean, but other than that, like I said, marriage fine. You know, it's just, you know, when you see stuff and you be like, man, you know, if I did this differently, we may not have been bumping heads so early. So.
Yeah, so you're saying, you know, it's important
Yeah.
to really get all of that,
Yes.
you know, before you
y'all
jump
say
into marriage.
yes. Okay, we gonna get in. Yeah.
Or you gonna be saying, I should stay single.
That part.
He don't gotta see this, you know.
We ain't gonna tell them.
No,
They ain't gonna say nothing.
Like, y'all
or heard
No,
nothing.
that is Torian.
Period. All right, Bridget.
For myself, I would say I really am just now learning how to fully date myself. I feel like I semi-dated myself in the sense of saying, okay, I like to travel, I'm gonna do this. I like to play softball, so I'm still gonna play softball. You know, those things, and saying, okay, this is what I want to do. But as in really finding, as in dating myself, I think for me to start dating myself, I had to get to the root of the issues and my problems that I've had. So I had to figure out, one, myself of even when I started dating, it would be small things that somebody who I was talking to would say, and I'd be like, oh, you done it. It's over. You get on my nerves. You remind me of this, everything else, and it's not even their fault.
Y'all, she told one dude, you remind me of my mama.
This ain't gonna work.
I said, he's a whole man.
Okay.
I mean, she was right, but I was like, Bridget,
It ain't gonna work.
No. You know, it was just certain things where I was like, ooh, Bridget, that didn't warrant that. You got some problems. It's not even them. You know, and one of the things that I had to realize and be real with myself was, well, even if you did get into a relationship, it's not gonna be them. You the one that's gonna mess it up.
check it out.
Because one, you're gonna have an attitude for no reason. You don't know how to communicate and express what's going on with you. So how can you expect them to acknowledge or fix anything because you can't even tell them? You know, when you just walking around angry and everything else, and then 6 months later they say, girl, your hair, and all of a sudden I blow up. Well, 6 months ago you didn't have a problem, you know. And then I'm just like, Bridget, you tripping. Yeah, so it was fine. It was finding myself in regards to, okay, why do I act like this? How can I fix it? You know, where can I go forward with that? And then again, figuring out what is it that I like? You know, what is it that I'm actually seeking and seeing? And from a spiritual standpoint, I had to get myself spiritually right. I found myself still being connected to things that I should have never been connected to begin with. And people, you know, carrying those things and carrying those loads around and not realizing you're blocking the door of other stuff that should be entering. And I was blocking my own blessings because of one, I didn't know any better. And then two, even though I knew better, I wasn't ready to move from that. So it wasn't until I could get into a spiritual place to say, okay, God, work on me. I need you to start showing me myself. And when that process starts, I'll tell you right now, it's not a good feeling. It's not, because you start to realize your dirty issues. And the things that are inside of you where you're like, no, you caused this. This is what's going on with you. And it's just really now I'm at a place to where I can be honest with myself and say, okay, this is what I want to fix. This is where I'm going. And it's a continuing process.
You know what I think the one of the biggest problems that or barriers between loving yourself and not is that sometimes we as women are constantly preparing ourselves for marriage instead of just preparing yourself for you. And what I mean by that is everything you do is with marriage in mind. I'm gonna get my credit fixed because when I get married, we gonna need to get a house, and I'm gonna lose weight because baby, I need to be ready for my dress. God may send him right now, and I need to be tight. You know, just everything. It's. I think sometimes we don't stop to say, I just want to do this for myself. Like Mia was saying earlier in the conversation, she had a bucket list. She had things that she wanted to do, and she did it because that's what she wanted to do. And I think sometimes as women, like Bridget mentioned, don't embrace singlehood. And I went through that phase, you know, after my breakup. It was like, okay, now I'm not wanting to break up and then jump into something else, you know, just to have somebody. No. Even my relationship, when that 7-year relationship ended and I got another relationship, it was about 1.5 years. And I shouldn't have been in that one because I wasn't healed all the way, but I thought I was good. And God was like, I told you you wouldn't. And yeah, that was all jacked up, right? And so, I'm just saying. But after that, after I really, you know, said in my mind, okay, I'm single, it was more so about, you know, before I get in the next relationship, I'm gonna make sure I'm healed. And And so I went through that healing phase, but it was like, I need to heal for myself. But, I need to make sure that when God sent my husband, that I'm not still dealing with issues and baggage that's going to tarnish my marriage, that's going to contaminate my marriage, that's going to bring toxins in my marriage. When it's like, girl, make sure your space ain't toxic. Make sure you ain't contaminating yourself from the inside out. And so I think sometimes when it comes to loving you, we do it with marriage in mind. Or we do it with, I want to make sure I'm good for the next person that I invite in my life, instead of just saying, no, I need to love me for me. If there is never a space filled in my life or a ring put on his hand, I know I'm content with Zania. And some of the ladies that may be watching can relate to that. I know with me, like I said, there were things that I've done because I wanted to do without the distraction. And it wasn't until I started embracing that, and it took a while. It took a while because even after I healed, I was like, okay, I'm healed. Lord, send him. And he was like, nah. And so it was like, once you stop fighting with yourself. And I remember I told Bridget, I said, first of all, I remember the Holy Spirit reminded me, because I would pray all the time, God, I want 2 individual people, that's financially stable, that's this, and they got their own stuff going. I mean, I don't need nobody trying to shut down my dreams and what I'm trying to do. We're going to build an empire, we're going to build an enterprise, we're going to do ministry together, and da-da-da-da-da. And so when people would come along, that I'm like, okay, I'm kind of feeling them. He like, no. And then I would kind of show interest, right? And Bridget would be like, I'm like, no, they seem cool, And then something would happen, and I'm like, bruh, come on, right? And so it turned into the Holy Spirit reminding me, I'm preparing you for what you prayed for. And so, you asked for this, and I'm making that happen, and you mad because it's taking a little time. And so I stopped, I guess getting to the point where I felt saddened about singlehood. And now I'm excited. I know I was doing all of that early, but I'm telling you, like, I walk in my singleness and it's dope because I am doing everything. And Bridget, no, I'm telling y'all, like, I'm legit good. It's not like, where's my man? God, bring him. Oh my God, everybody's getting married except me. And you do go through those phases. Like, if you just keep it 100, you do wonder sometimes, like, why the 304 over here got a whole man?
Right.
And I'm over here living right. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to. I mean, it is what it is. Or you see people. I had a friend y'all, my friends are retarded.
But you don't know what them 304s going through when they get in that mansion.
Well, that's what I'm finna get into. So I had a friend, like, she texted me and she was like, hey, you remember such and such? And I said, no. She was like, I'm gonna send you a picture. So she sent me a picture and I was like, what happened? I'm immediately thinking, did they die? What happened? And she was like, no, they got married again for the 3rd time. So you mean to tell me you can find 3 spouses and I can't find what? I was like, okay, I'm done. And it was hilarious, but you go through those phases of, like, Lord, why do you keep overlooking me? And it's like sometimes, either you're not ready, or sometimes he's still developing your spouse. It ain't even about you. And sometimes it just ain't time. The season ain't right. The timing ain't right. And so when it comes to really loving you, it's a holistic approach. It's not just traveling. It's taking time to heal from the inside out. And I want y'all to dive on this as well. I know with me personally, it was like, okay, God dealt with every layer of me. And like Bridget said, by the time it got to me, it was real ugly. Because he started dealing with stuff about Zania that, I knew stunk. And then I started learning that other people knew it stank. But I was like, those stink. And then God was like, it do stink. And I was like, all y'all stink. So it got to the point where I was like, okay, Lord, he dealt with me and still does deal with me. But then when my insides began to become whole, then my thinking pattern, my mental began to change, and I started caring about myself more physically, which I really didn't struggle with that. Like, not in the confidence department. I'm just gonna be 100. Not conceited or vain. I just really love myself in that area. Amen. Yes. Thank you, Jesus. What, Bridget? You got that face smile like what?
I was listening.
Whatever. Anyways, and so now that I embrace singlehood. And when I talk to other people, I'm like, stop looking forward to a man. He will come. Don't get it twisted. I'm not sitting here like, oh God, I'm good with being single. You know, I'm just like Paul. I'm gonna stay my Yahweh. That ain't what I want for myself. But in this moment, in this time, until our destinies meet, I'm gonna be doing Zanya full throttle. Mm-hmm. Full throttle. So what are some ways that you guys, you know, learn to love you holistically? Like all the way around before getting you a bae, before you get a ring. Yeah. What are some holistic ways?
Honestly, for me, it's probably not politically correct. But I stopped going to singles conferences.
Yeah. So wait, Mia, can I say this? I remember I made a post, right? And it's just preachers, let me say this, okay? Everybody don't need no single series. We so tired of relationship series. We are relationship. Maybe it's because we almost 40, and you know where we come from. It's like we had good relationship series, and it's like, how many more series can you give us? And go ahead, Mia. Y'all irritating sometimes. It's just like it's more to life than being single. And I think that's why so many people deal with that the way that they do, because they are going to all these conferences, they are going to all these retreats, they are listening to all these relationship series, and then they go home like, oh, if I could just get this right, then my man will come, or if I can just get this right, you know, I'll see my wife. And it's just like, stop. Won't you do a series about self-care, mental health? Stop being stupid. Get yourself right. And then, you know, if somebody come around, that's cool, but stop setting the standard of, all right, I'm shut up. Go ahead, Mia.
Okay.
The reason why I'm saying that, I know it seems like, dang, Pastor Z, you know, you took that personal. I've just talked to so many people who say things like, oh, well, I bought this book, and I went to this retreat, and I listened to such and such relationship series, and then they depressed because they still single. And it's like, let's deal with other stuff, you know, instead of just putting a big, huge light. Like, that's our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to get to heaven, not to get no man or no woman. Now, go ahead, Mia. I'm sorry.
You sure this stuff?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I stopped going to singles conferences, and I stopped being a part of singles ministries. Not because for some people, they may need that in their season of their life. They may be newly single, they may be newly saved, they may be whatever their process is. But for me, I didn't need anybody preaching to me another way of how to abstain from sex. That's really all singles conferences tend to be about, is, you know, how to not fornicate or whatever the case may be. So I stopped going to singles conferences. I stopped doing singles ministries. I stopped doing anything that celebrated, because all of those aspects of single ministry in church and even sermons, I mean, it's pro making the wife ready. So that's why you have people who are always like, I'm doing this for my husband, I'm doing that for my husband, everything is for my husband, because you have in you know, the church by and large, when you're talking about, you know, getting yourself together, getting yourself healed, whole, when you're talking about getting married, it's all of the messages are geared towards making sure the wife is ready. I mean, I'm sick of hearing about Boaz. I just be like, Boaz is dead. Like, let's just leave him there. You know, I don't want to hear about Boaz no more. The times have changed. You know, I'm not finna go lay it on dude's feet and then let him, you know, identify me as his wife. Like, I'm not doing that. Right. So stop using those messages to get me to be a certain type of way. So for me, that was my first step. I stopped doing that. And then I also started recognizing things that I like. I started recognizing that there were things that I liked because legitimately the church told me to like it. That I like it that way because the church preached it. I like this color, I like all black. Why? Because you're supposed to wear all black on a certain particular Sunday. So I got a whole bunch of black in the closet.
Penguin outfits.
You know, penguin outfit, you know. So I had to re-identify what I like, what I love to do, and things of that nature. And that was like the beginning of my journey of knowing who I am and learning myself and identifying what I want to do with myself. And so I also had to realize that my lifestyle wasn't conducive for a spouse at that time. My lifestyle was not, it wouldn't have been fair for me to be with anybody, you know, and I had to be honest with myself in that. But I also had to be honest with myself and say that the church tells you that God promised you a husband. And then the reality of it is you might not get married. That's just the reality. So let me go ahead and prep myself now. Let me prep my retirement. Let me go ahead and get that house. Let me go ahead and talk about family planning. Let me go ahead and do all this stuff on my own because there's a possibility I just might not get married.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I know Mia went through a phase where she was just like, you know, at this age, if I ain't married, I still want kids. And she got a lot of criticism for it.
Yeah, right? that's still in that fact. If I don't get married, yes, I will still move forward with
right, but I remember we had to talk about, what is it? Artificial insemination. And, you know, how the church will receive a single woman who ain't fornicating, you know, but she ain't married and she chooses the route of artificial insemination to have children and how, you know, that would cause conflict.
Absolutely.
But it's just like, if that's in your plan, you know, where's the sin? I mean, it's just my thing, but I just thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I had to consider all of those things because realistically, I knew how old I was, and this ain't no Sarah type situation. And trying to be 90 and 99 or something like that, bearing no children. So this ain't the same thing.
Let the Lord open your womb.
You know, no. I don't want that. So, I mean, I had to be completely honest in that, okay, well, what if I'm somebody like, I think it was Shirley Caesar that got married much later in life, you know, or Cindy Trim that got married at 60, you know, so am I going to deny myself the opportunity to be a parent because I, you know, because statistically people are waiting much longer to get married anyway. So I'm going to deny myself that, or especially because I know that as a preacher, as a minister, I'm going to receive criticism. Because the reality of it is they don't really care about me. They care about what it looks like.
Yes.
They can care less about how I feel. They can care less about my heart. They can care less about my goals. They can care less about if something hurt my feelings. They just want to make sure that when you show up on Sunday morning and you serving in their ministry, that you look a certain way and look the part and don't bring reproach on them.
Yeah.
That's all they really care about.
Yeah.
So I made a conscious effort, a conscious decision to say, if this is the route I take, then this is how I'm gonna take it. And I'm prepared to lose friends, I'm prepared to lose associates. It is kind of what it is. Because even if I, you know, publish my documents to say, this is the document, this is the sperm bank, this is the doctor, this is my receipt. Even if I publish all that, people are still gonna say, she lying.
You said me.
She lying, you know. So, or whatever the case may be. So I just lived, I was like, whatever, I'm gonna do it my way, this way. And if it is something that people have a problem with, it is what it is. I have a better time with saying if there are consequences to my actions, it's because it was something I decided versus me doing something because somebody else influenced me or the church said I should do it this way, it didn't look a certain way, and then I have consequences.
Mom?
Well, I think I'm not really, well, I wasn't really churchy. So I think for me it was moving away from, worldly stuff. So as far as these clubs, you know, living what we consider a single life. So as far as, you know, I say going to the clubs, going to strip clubs, you know, just, you know, I can date this person and I ain't married, so I can date you. And, you know, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Nothing. Boom, boom. You know, it's just being real careless about how I dated. And I think for me, it was more trying to break down this hard shell with people. So, like, even when I dated, every person I think have dated has always told me,
You the man in the relationship.
that, or No. I mean, some. No.
Like, let me think.
No. Or is, you too hard for me. Yes, you too hard. And I'm just like, well, just like her. I got my house, I got my stuff, da-da-da-da. What you bringing? And if they just want on their block, whatever. And it's the way I talk to people. I really had to tone it down.
Yes.
And why y'all shaking out?
I'm just
I didn't shake.
Yeah.
we're just,
They
It
should.
was, they was at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, like really, I think even changing careers and stuff, like where I was in and what I was doing, it was very sexual. So it was stuff that we do.
It was legal.
Yeah.
It was legal.
No, it was
She
legal.
wasn't a lady of the night.
No, not at
No.
all. No.
But it did come out wrong.
It's okay.
why
Jack.
I feel like I'm struggling. She the one talking. I'm like, Lord,
Yeah.
But that is something I can say real quick. We've always laughed at because of her career. It is legal. It's nothing up under the table. I would always laugh because when we're having conversations about her prior job, I was like, if people sat and listened to what we said, they'd probably be like, and they think that's okay? Not really knowing what she really did.
right.
And I didn't even realize it until I get those looks.
Because it's normal for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, but I had to step back from it because doing the stuff every day is, you really fall into it.
It makes you more.
Yeah.
It makes you.
Well, you
Yeah.
kind of have to be.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of whether, like, I'm not saying she didn't have to or nothing. It's just that's the career.
The nature
Right,
of the
because
job,
my
yeah.
job was the same way. It makes you tough. You have to ask tough questions.
She becomes
all the time.
desensitized.
Yeah, you're very
That's-
desensitized.
yeah.
Because for me, I would walk into a store and if I may see a husband, a wife, and 2.5 kids, and they just walking around, Daddy, can you buy me this? And mommy said yes, and I would be like, yeah, lying.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up lying. You finna go home and
Yes.
be good. No, that's
Yes.
a lie. Because of what we do
What
for
you
a
see
living, what I
daily.
see regularly,
Right.
I automatically is like, yeah, that's a whole lot right there,
Yes.
But I do agree because, Simone said she had to tone it down. And I know I've toned down quite a bit when I, have certain conversations, except for her. Certain conversations. But one of the things I always say is I can always tell when, especially somebody who is real tough or whatever, I can always tell if they really met the right one for them. I can always tell because of how it tones them down.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling one pastor, I told her, I'm not necessarily proud that I said this like this. But, we had a little conversation one day. I'm not just saying. I had a little conversation, and she was one of the ones who used to criticize what I do, criticize my standards, criticize me going to the movies. She had a criticism for everything, but she was hard about everything. And I just looked at her one day, and I said, one day God gonna send somebody to you, and He gonna love you so good until it softens all that up. And I'm gonna know that's your husband because you ain't gonna talk to me like that no more. And she looked at me like, and the person that was sitting there at the table with us was like, yeah, okay, next question. That's pretty much how I handled it at that point. And I can tell by that because they so harsh and don't care how you say things to people, don't care about people's feelings, don't care how it may hurt a person or whatever. And it just takes the right person to come through and, knock all that off.
And I will say, especially being strong women, because we're all strong, and I've seen all of us tone down, and it really didn't take a man to do it. It was just really God dealing with us, because of course, people have a perception of me that, Bridget, why you take a step back? Was you adjusting? No, but there's this perception that I'm super hard, and I do have a hard shell, but it's not who I am. And so I think sometimes women who are extra strong get a bad rep, especially with dating. Now, I think Jill Scott said it best. She was like, you can tell me what to do, you can tell me what to do. But if you can't tell me what to do, you can't tell me what to do. And so what it is, I know with my personal story, I tended to date people who weren't as strong, right? And so it was just like, when you date people like that, you don't have respect for them. Mm-hmm. And so you don't filter, you don't control what you say. It's because you feel like I'm having to carry the weight here, okay? And so I think, innately a lot of strong women, and I'm only saying this because just piggybacking on, what both of y'all have said, I think in turn along, a lot of strong women, it's a misconception that we want men that we can pump. No. Not at all. No. Not at all. I say it all the time. I want to meet a man that can put me in check. That I can be like, yeah, okay. Tell me what to do, because I know how I am, and I think sometimes, we all get it. Now, I'm not saying that some of the hardness that we had was just that, because a lot of it needed to be broken down. And I'm glad that we partially got through that. Because we are still holding on just a little bit. But God is working. I got a little extra in me, but I think just anytime when you think about any type of relationship, not just, in a romantic relationship, sometimes God sends the right people in your life, even if it's in business, even if it's just platonic, even if it's friendship, connections, whatever it is, He'll send the right people in your life to kind of level out what you need to be in order to go to the next dimension. Bridget?
One thing I do agree with her with is, man, going out and doing stuff for yourself.
Yeah.
I started going to the movies by myself. Ooh, what I used to love, just go out to eat somewhere by myself. Mm-hmm. I could go get sit at the table, put my headset on, and I'll eat my food and just be like, I know I called her one day for, what is that? In February. What's that holiday? Valentine's Day. Yeah. And everybody, especially when you single, I used to see it, and it's the day out. I need a boyfriend, you can take me out here. I went to a little Mexican restaurant. They had all their little couples. Came in there, sat down by myself, and had the best meal ever. I even called her, and I was like, I'm out to eat. And she was like, on Valentine's Day, I was like, yep, by myself. Ooh, it's good.
Yeah. I was working, so.
Yeah, I was good. So, when you finally are good with yourself, you don't have to be at society standards of what you need to be and how you should feel when you're single. Like, when you really good with yourself, I don't care what nobody else. Now, I sit at this table by myself and talk to myself. I don't care. Well, you know what I mean.
You can talk to yourself. You just can't answer yourself.
Yeah, as long as I ain't be like, hey,
Sometimes I answer myself.
Those are sometimes you do answer. Girl, you should.
Take that to the heart. Like, girl, you cute, what?
But just being able to be on that level,
right?
It's a great feeling.
Mm-hmm. Bridget?
I like the holistic part, I think, because we done circled a few things.
I know, right?
I guess for the holistic part for myself, like I say, it was one, I had to realize there were some things that I was doing that I needed to get rid of. And people, so it was just kind of like some people I needed to release. That was there.
Free yourself, daughter.
I needed to, because I realized that I was settling again, which is some things there, because once I sat and I looked at myself, I was like, you really don't want that. But there was a fear that I was going to be by myself the rest of my life. And that's just the honest thing that I have, because everybody around you is getting married and your family is asking what's wrong with you. Everybody else married, you still ain't married. That's one of those questions that always come up. You ain't found nobody yet?
Girl.
Well, I'm still here.
Listen.
Myself, ain't nobody here.
And that's big with our grandparents and our parents.
Yes.
You ain't married, you by yourself.
You still by yourself?
Yeah,
So
I got a problem with that, because then my sarcasm kicks in. It does, It kicks in because most of the older married people, they don't even like each other.
They don't.
And so, my sarcasm will kick in at that time when you're questioning if I found somebody. I'm like, oh, you on number 3. You know, like, oh, okay. And I actually had somebody to tell me not that long ago that they really realized when I was doing A, B, and C, and they was judging what I did because, you know, a lot of the times people in the world, as we call it, like to say that church people judge them. You know, yeah, I'm getting judged. She judging me. It's always that, but not understanding we get judged a lot as well.
Yes.
We are always targeted. There's always a misconception about our life and what we do. And, you know, the first thing people want to say is, I thought you was a Christian. We're always judged.
And a lot of it ain't judging. It just is what it is. If it walk like a duck, quack like a duck, look like a duck,
I don't
and
mean that
you
type
a
of
duck.
I don't mean that type of judgment.
I'm talking about just all the way around though.
Yeah, and so I actually had somebody call me and say, you know what, the whole time I recognized that I was just mismanaging my vagina. And I was like, oh, okay. And so, you know, I was judging you as being a holy roller and deep and whatever, but here I was out here mismanaging my vagina. And I was like, oh, okay.
But vaginas can be mismanaged.
Of course they are.
They can be
I mean,
mismanaged.
yeah.
She was saying what she just
But she was
dancing around.
Yeah, you know, she was able to identify that that's kind of what it was, and recognizing how she didn't love herself in the process, because, you know, who wants to say they mismanaged themselves in the process of, you know, being with people or whatever. So, I mean, I think when we have people who are constantly managing our uterus, and if we've had children, or constantly managing whether or not we, you know, it's time for us to get married or whatever case may be, but not recognizing that there's a little bit of jealousy in that they never got a chance to live the way they wanted to. They got tied down with babies early on. They got tied down in certain jobs they didn't want. They had to do things they don't want to do just because they settled for a certain type of a life.
And people will hate you for your waiting, for your being patient.
Absolutely.
For you walking in purpose and letting God, you know, drop those things in your life. And they will hate you for that because they settled. And sometimes they don't realize they settled because at the moment, you know, it looks like what I have is better than what you have.
Right.
You know, and I hate this whole thing where people look at you and be like, where your man at?
Yeah.
You ain't even happy.
That's okay.
Like you, and it's like you have to, y'all, it'd be so hard because I'd be like, don't let me talk about your whole situation right here. You know, don't make me crush you, okay? God just delivered me, praise God. But it be situations like that I'm just like, Lord, help me to break my tongue because I just want to go off on them because your stuff is real ugly, okay? But it's like so many times people don't think it's real, but it is so real. There are a lot of married folks. Let me tell you something. This is a true story. I've had so many married people over the years who have told me they envy me.
Absolutely.
Yes, me too.
And they're just like, don't get me wrong, you know, I mean, I love my husband or I love my wife, you know, this, that, and third, but I wish I had somebody like that.
Yeah.
Or I wish I would have waited. Or, you know, man, you doing this, Z, man, I just, man, I wish I had the freedom. You know, I was just so busy trying to get a ring that now I got it. It's like you feel stuck. And sometimes, you know, it took a lot of those situations that I started seeing, and I was like, now, wait a minute. You know, these people that we looking at that we're thinking, man, they got married, they had me, they this, they that, they got the babies, and then they stuck at home looking crazy while you out here living your best blessed life, full of favor, walking in purpose, walking in freedom. You know, your ministry is booming, and God is doing everything He said He was gonna do in your life and promised to give you, and people will hate you for it. But it's like, ain't nobody told you to sit your cheeks down and settle. I mean, that's just real. Walking it out is not easy. It's not easy.
No.
And I remember my cousin told me, she said, you know, Zonia, don't ever feel bad for being blessed. She was like, when God bless you, don't feel bad. She was like, when God send that spouse that's just, you know, over the moon, everything you wanted and more, don't let nobody make you feel bad because you have a blessed spouse. She said, because right now, while they doing what they doing, they laying under a warm arm. They ain't studying you.
Right.
She was like, you withholding yourself, and they getting it in. They ain't studying you. So why are you studying them when God bless you and you feel like you gotta hide it and you feel like, well, I don't want anybody. I mean, I never felt that way. She was just, giving information because y'all know I don't care, genuinely. But I just think sometimes, you have to leave room for yourself.
I agree.
And we don't do that enough, ladies. It's like we think and it's by nature because we're nurturers, right? And y'all got kids, but as women, we're nurturers, and so we tend to put everybody else's stuff on our plate and we forget about ourselves. And I think it's nothing wrong with remembering you, always making room for you. And I can honestly say I've become very selfish. And it's like I say things like, oh, God, send him. And then when I start thinking about the sacrifice and what I have to, the compromise, and I'm like, woo, about that. It sounds good until you have to do the work. And I remember I was watching, what's that show, Black Love? Isn't it Black Love?
Yeah,
and all the married couples.
Yeah.
And I commend all them people, but then when I started listening to their stories, I was like, I don't know if marriage is really for me. It may not be. I mean, let's have a partnership and stuff, but all the work that y'all are doing, it makes you think. And I think sometimes people over glamorize, what it really is without looking at the work behind it.
But I feel like when people, when they get married, they think, ooh, we married, ooh, yeah, this gonna be so easy. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like, is it easy fixing yourself? It's not.
No.
So what makes you think when you with somebody else, now you have two people that is working on themselves. So what makes you think this marriage is going to be easy? Mm-hmm. So you have to go in understanding this going to be, But as long as y'all are working together, you can make it fun. Mm-hmm. And that was a big thing. That's why, I said I was, I really had got to know myself before I married him, but, I could have did more. But going in, it was like once I got into that marriage, it made me sit down and really get to know myself within the first years. And it really made me say, this is what we not going to do. This is what we not going to tolerate. This is what I'm not doing because I did it in my past. So you either going to really work on this marriage or come on, let's go get this divorce. And it was where I knew I wasn't accepting stuff. And to actually really get into the marriage and really start, really get into your word, really getting to know yourself, really, praying to really get in a close relationship with God. You have to pay attention when you doing stuff, it's other people watching. Because it's like his daughter started moving, and she was paying attention to, you really trying to get in your word, that's good, and she started seeing stuff, and because of the way I was moving with him, it made him want to do better. Mm-hmm. So it's like, when you in your marriage, you have to be for your marriage, and you have to set your rules. And if they not, if they not living up to it's okay to say, hey, don't just stay in it just because, well, I'm married now. If you're not happy, go do what you gotta do and be happy, because that person went for you, jumped into it too fast.
But you know what? I think the base of all of it, no matter if you're single, no matter if you're in a relationship, if you're married, if you're engaged, whatever it is, if you don't love yourself first, it's gonna affect everything.
You can't, because it goes back to if I don't love me, and that's the same thing when we talked about weight loss or confidence. It doesn't matter what my spouse sees me as. You can tell me all day you're beautiful, you're this. If I don't believe that, it don't matter what you say. Because in my mind, this is what I see, this is what I know, and I'm not happy. And as long as I'm not happy, I can't make you happy. Because that's more energy I have to exert, and how can I make you happy when I can't even figure out how to make this one happy?
And so that just means every surrounding or atmosphere or environment you go into, you're going to bring unhappiness.
Toxicity. Yes. You are bringing your toxic stuff in, and I'm pushing it off on you for you to accept, and I'm not willing to say it's me, it's you. And I'm not realizing I'm doing that. Right. And that is the hardest part. And I think, again, like when we say, how you said, well, a lot of times, as women, we're looking to get married. This is what we have. And that's just because it's culture-wise. Right. Everything else, the female has been taught, this is what you do. And we have an episode coming about that, just so y'all know.
So don't give too much away. But I'm telling you, we have a. Ooh.
But I'm just saying this too. When you're looking at your past relationships and everything, you know, even if you had been cheated on, whatever it was, they may have did that. That's their deal. But sometimes us as women, we have to look at what part do we play.
Wow.
Sometimes we really
because we're in every situation, you're the common denominator, and people don't like to see that.
And then too, even in dating, when you sit back and I look at the guys that I've dated, there is a common denominator. I'm attracted to this.
To that.
I'm looking at this. This is what I want here. So then I have to go back. I can't keep saying, well, he keep doing his wisest. No, it's something because that like spirit, I was attracted to it. So what was it in me that makes me continue to keep attracting this type of person, and why have I not come out of that? Mm-hmm. So I can't keep blaming it. And this is something that I've been learning to stay here recently. When something happens, I'm not even mad at them. I'm mad at myself because I let you do that.
Yeah.
I allowed that to happen. So it's not until I sat there and I was real with myself and saying, you already saw that. That's already, you knew that was there. You the one who sat there for us, so how you gonna be angry with them?
And we talk about, Bridget and I talk about that all the time, you know, because sometimes you can't see that. And you don't, and sometimes you see it and you don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it. And so when you turn a blinding eye, or you just don't want to see it, then you prohibit yourself from healing, from growing, from maturing, and all of that. And so, it's like, be okay in loving yourself in the process. Loving yourself is ugly.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we have a bad or a misconstrued image of what love is. When we think about Christ, how did he show his love? By getting beat, by carrying that cross, being hung on it, dying, and then being raised up again. And we look at that, and y'all know the song, That's Love. They hung him high. They stripped out. Okay. But that's love. That's the ultimate act of love, right? And so if Christ is showing you this is how I loved you, then in loving ourselves, there are some things we gonna have to be beat. We gonna have to be slandered. We gonna have to be crucified. There are some things where we need to hang up. There are some things we need to put to rest and put it in the grave, and then you need to raise up a whole nother person. Yeah. And so it's like, you go through your own Calvary experience. And loving yourself is not always easy. It's accepting all the parts of you and saying, okay, I remember I had a conversation with myself at 28 after I got a relationship, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was just like, I don't like you. I don't like that you found yourself in this situation. I don't like that you stayed in this situation too long. I don't like that you're being misrepresented all over again, and it's because of A, B, and C, but you did it to yourself. And so you can either stop right now, Tanya, and turn the page. And I was almost 29, so I was like, you can go into the next decade of your life repeating what you just did, or you can make a conscious decision right now and say, I'm gonna change it. And that process has been difficult. I mean, it's still a work where I'm just like, layers are still falling off, and I'm just like, ooh. And I tell people all the time, retrospect and looking back and reflecting, I don't care what time of year it is. I can just wake up one day or just be going throughout my day and say, what was I doing this time last year? I have my own personal timelines, right? And then I'm like, ooh, last year I was praying for this. Ooh, thank you, Jesus, because baby, she wasn't ready for that. And it's like, sometimes we don't want to admit that to ourselves. We don't want to admit it to ourselves. And so that process of love is ugly.
Well, I think you do have to have a healthy understanding of love, and like, Bridget was saying earlier, when somebody is used to a certain thing, or if you're toxic or whatever, everywhere you go, you bring that toxicity into the atmosphere where you are. And likewise, on the flip side, if you are a healed person, everywhere you go, you bring healing back. And so even if you're in a situation where you know somebody, whether it's family, friends, romantic relationships, or whatever, and you're a healed person and they're toxic or they are broken in a particular area, you want to speak healing. You don't want to be a person that speaks, negativity or toxicity into that situation, because you've already walked through a particular healing process. And in the same time, like, you know, I really, when I was trying to identify and understand what love is, because, you know, as African Americans, we have this glorified struggle love thing. You know, it's in the movies, it's in that mentality of being a ride or die chick.
Yes.
I'ma hold my man down, you know, that type of thing. And it's struggle love. Struggle love is not real love. Struggle love is being treated a certain type of way, him running around having babies on you, you know, getting popped in the lip and all that, and you still being down. That's struggle love. That's not real love. And so when I really started understanding, you know, what I grew up looking at as love. Now, honestly, God, truth, I tell people that, you know, I didn't necessarily have the best role model of a father in my life or what have you. I didn't necessarily have the best role model of what a marriage or a relationship is. But I honestly looked at black television and I said, you know, it may be fake, it may be TV, but at least I know if he loves his wife, he's supposed to talk to her like this. At least I know if they got kids, they're supposed to do this. Like, I had some type of idea of where I'm supposed to go. And then I started looking at the scriptures. Love is patient. Love is kind. It doesn't keep a record of wrong. It doesn't boast. You know, that's what love is. I think it's 1 Corinthians 13, I believe it is. It talks about what love is and what exactly it's not. And if it doesn't line up in what that is, if y'all go search love, if I'm wrong on the scripture, I apologize. Just look up what is love, and it'll take you to Corinthians. But I believe it's chapter 13, and it literally goes line by line. Like, love is this, love is this, love is this, love is this. And if you could take that and lay it next to your relationship, any kind of relationship, and see that person and see, okay, yeah, that person really do love me. That person really do have, you know, some strong feelings for me. Or if you could take that and lay it there and say they boast, they always throwing stuff in my face, they keep a record of wrong, they're not kind, they're not patient, they're angry, that's not healthy love, and that's not what love actually is. That's what they told us it was. But if we're talking about using the example of Christ, that he loved us, that he gave his only son, that's outlined in love. Love gives. It doesn't take. It gives. And if you're in a situation where the person is constantly taking, every time you leave from them, you feel empty and depleted. They took, you know, your happiness. You went in there, you was happy. Now you leave, you mad. You went in there with some joy, and now you leave, it's sorrowful. You went in there, you had a little money, and you leave it, now you ain't got no change in your pocket. I mean, they're taking something all the time. That's struggle love. That ain't real love.
Right. And a lot of them you got to struggle love with yourself.
Yeah.
You got to struggle love with yourself, which is the whole purpose of this conversation. You know, with every Girl Talk episode that we have, it wasn't just cool conversations to have, or, ooh, that's a no topic. It's really stuff that I've had in my personal conversations, or people that I've had to deal with personally, or people that have come to me, and it's like you realize this is an ongoing issue, and this is something that's really happening, and a lot of us are tied down in life because we have not learned to love ourselves first. And so, ladies, I'm glad that we had this open discussion about what's the name of this thing?
Love yourself.
Date you before you date him. That's it. Date you before you date him. I know. I mean, it was roundabout. That's what it is. Because we're wanting to convey to you to love you first, make room for you first. You know, if you remix Jonathan McReynolds' song, "I Will Make Room for You," put your name in there. I will make room for Zanya. I will make room for Bridget, Mia, Simone. Whatever your name is, you can type that in the comments. I will make room for Bon Quick. Whatever it is, make room for yourself. And it's okay to be a little selfish, you know? And when it's the right time, you'll learn how to balance and distribute that love in the right places. You'll be able to compartmentalize. The Lord will help you. He's gonna put the tools in you before he ever sent a man, before he ever sent children, before he ever sent a business, whatever it is. Love you first. Don't go looking for a man or anybody else. If your thing is women, date you before you date her, him, whatever your situation is. Before you do anything, love yourself first. That's all we want you guys to know. So, ladies, I appreciate y'all having this convo with me. Look, every Friday we right here having Girl Talk. Next Friday we got another awesome topic. It's gonna be fire, hot fire, like dying. Okay? So y'all have a beautiful weekend. Listen, come back next week. Another episode of Girl Talk where we keep it real, we keep it raw, and we keep it what, Bridget?
Classic.
Yes. Y'all have a blessed night. Be safe. Have a nice weekend.
Thought I would give up now. I'm getting stronger, I'm getting wiser, I'm getting better. Yes, I'm still together. Bruised but not broken. Just the word was spoken. It ain't nothing better than me. Got something real great on the inside of me. Oh, yes, I've been knocked down, but I'm not knocked out. And I'm about to start pushing again. I'll be back up before I count to 10.